what's your concern on the shifting part, on the driving part?
On the driving part?
Yeah, do you have any concerns, any questions? Any questions on the driving part? ¿En el manejo tienen algunas preguntas?
A veces, yo perdí cambio porque iba muy despacio.
So he lost the gear, he couldn't recover it. Any concern? No. What's your concern?
So says he said, so I was watching some YouTube, right, my downshifting, right, because I got it a few times and then
Okay.
I missed gear and how to re.
Okay, I found the problem already. YouTube. When I come here, when I do my classes, rule number 1,
Don't listen to YouTube.
don't watch YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get 10,000 different ways of
Yes.
doing things.
Yeah.
When you come here, you want to apply that. I'm not even teaching that rule over here. And then when you make that mistake at DMV, you're not gonna blame YouTube, you're gonna blame me. That applies for the backing, applies for the inspection, applies for the driving part. Please, the only YouTube videos you can watch is our YouTube videos.
Okay.
Okay? Because we are on the same page. I mean, everyone has his own system to teach, but that's the first mistake.
So you have a YouTube.
I've been doing
page?
this. I've been doing this for over 15 years, 10,000 plus students. Okay, so that means 10,000 different ways I've been through already. Okay, so driving is easy. The book is plain and simple. There are only 2 ways to know when to shift. What are those 2 ways?
Your RPMs and
RPMs
your
and
the speedometer.
speed. He knows it. RPM, and speed. Okay? Those 2. Period. If you know how to use this, now the proper way actually to do it, I prefer to go by the RPM rather than the speed, because when you change transmission, you use
feel it.
9 speed, 10, 13, 15, 18 speed. The range of the speed changes, but the RPM is always the same. Okay? So if you learn how to use the RPM correctly, don't use this. Later, once you know the truck,
You can float the
once you know
gears,
your
all
truck,
that.
let me tell you this.
I'm sorry.
Once you know the truck, you're gonna know your speed range for each gear. So once you know how to use the RPM, please, next time you shift, once you look at the RPM, you also look at your speed so you know what speed is for each gear. Yes.
And so the higher gear you're in, when you're going into 8, 7 and all that, right, your RPMs are gonna be higher, right? In order to calm down on the
But
downshift.
you should-
But if you watch between the 10 and the 12, right, as your speed drops, it's
Hold on.
gonna come in between that 10 and 12 to where that's when you clutch, gas.
Hold on. We're not there yet.
Alright, I'm
Please
sorry.
just let me finish it,
I'm
and then at the end you can ask
Okay.
if I don't cover those.
Okay.
If I don't cover it over here, then you can ask me, please. Okay, so in other words, you gotta know the RPM. You can take a picture of this after the log. So what's the maximum speed in California?
65.
65.
What is it again?
65.
On the highway, isn't it?
No, in Detroit,
I'm gonna ask it
55.
again. 55. We're talking about commercial vehicles.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry.
55.
Yeah.
Remember, we are commercial drivers.
Yeah, 55.
So anything that we talk, our world is gonna be about commercial rules. 55.
Good job, man. You listen. You listen.
Okay, so 55 is the maximum speed in California. So in the truck we are driving, we're gonna use it as a regular 9 speed. Regular 9 speed, which means reverse, low gear. So this will be the first gear actually low. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 9 speed because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 4 high range. Okay? I always say, look at the windshield. When you look at the windshield, you have the same diagram. You have the left up corner, lower up corner, the center line, the divider, and the right hand side. Used to make it easier. Okay, so doing 55, so it's 9 speed. Okay, high range. So doing 55 miles an hour on the freeway, what gear should you be in?
8.
8 gear. It should be 8 gear. Okay. So how do you know when it's time to shift up?
Your RPMs.
What RPM?
Between 15 and 20.
That's too high.
10 to 15.
10 to 15.
17, 18 max.
17, 18.
That's another problem I see when I take you guys driving. I see a lot of drivers going over 20, 2200 RPM. That's too high. You know what? You're forcing the
Just
engine.
winding it out.
And I get the point why you guys want to do that, because you guys are not double clutching fast enough. So again, we said the RPM. I said that the RPM, you should know when to shift. Okay, upshift. Upshift. Between 15 up to 1800 RPM max, please. So anytime, so the RPM is gonna tell you when to shift. Anytime you go between this range, it's time to shift up. The RPM is asking you to shift. The track is asking you to shift, right? Now, that's me. It might be drivers out there that they can use higher RPMs. That's okay, that's their truck. But this is my truck, okay? So I wanna take care of my truck. And I've been driving like this for the last 20 years, and I mean, I try to take care of as much as possible as my equipment. I don't want to abuse my equipment.
So you overwork the truck if you go in higher than that.
So please, next time I don't want to see anybody shifting over or higher than these RPMs. Okay? Now that's upshift, okay? Now it doesn't really matter the speed right now because it's upshifting. So by the time I get 55, I should be in 8th gear, right? Average. Okay. Now a lot of people forget the downshiftting. I'm gonna use downshiftting. You can downshift at any RPM. In reality, you can do it at any RPM. But if you do it right, then it's gonna work. I use 1000 RPM on number 10 in the RPM gauge and 15, just to make it easier. Easy for what? These are easy numbers to remember. But if I tell you 13, 18, 12, 17, 11, 16, 14, 19, you're gonna forget all these numbers. But these are easy numbers to remember. So in other words, this is upshifting, this is for downshifting. So which means,
so in between the 10 and 15, I can downshift.
hold on, I said wait until finish.
Oh, sorry.
So for downshifting, don't downshift until you reach 1000 RPM. That's gonna be the goal. That's gonna be the guide to know when to shift. Anytime you reach 1000 RPM, it's time to downshift. Upshifting is 2 steps. 2 steps for upshifting, double clutching. 1, 2, neutral gear, right? You reach 15, 18, 1, 2, 1, 2, neutral gear. Now, what's important, if you upshift at 18 RPM, it has to be in gear before you hit 13, because there is 500 RPM in between, there's a split in the gears. So before it drops more than 500 RPM, it has to be in gear. If you let it drop more than 500 RPM, that's when you grind it. That's when you lose the gear. That's why I'm asking you to double clutch fast. It all depends on the RPM. The older the equipment is, the RPM is gonna be more forgiving. It's gonna take longer to drop. But in the newer truck, the RPM is gonna go fast. So that means you have to double clutch faster. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So if you shift at 18, it has to be in gear but before you hit 13. So if you shift at 15, it has to be in gear at what RPM?
So if you catch it in between the 15 and 18, it should just slide right in.
You're doing something wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
Or not going fast enough.
yeah.
So if I shift at 1500 RPM, at what RPM it should be in gear already?
Yeah.
At what RPM? 11.
Mm.
Before it drops to 11, it has to
It's
be
too
in
late.
gear.
Yeah.
If you let it drop below 11, it's too late. You're going too slow on the clutch.
You'll be grinding, trying to find the
Yeah.
gear.
And then you're trying to find the gear, but at the same time, as you're trying to find the gear, the speed is changing.
Dropping.
It's dropping. So by the time you find the gear, it might be 45 already,
Yeah.
or maybe 35,
I've been there.
or 25, or below 20.
You're grinding them.
If you were in 8th gear, 55, then you lose the gear. You're trying to find by the time you actually get in gear, you might be doing 25, and you're still trying to get in 70.
So you're recovering gear loss on.
So what's happening? I mean, you're not gonna get it in gear
Yeah.
because everything changed.
So how do you recover from a gear loss like that coming
Well,
down?
we shouldn't try to recover. We should know how to do it right since the beginning.
But what would you do?
But if I teach you how to recover, that becomes a bad habit,
Yeah.
and I don't like bad habits.
Yeah.
I rather you guys learn correctly since the beginning. I mean, it's part of it. Yes, it is to know how to recover. But the goal is to try to learn it as
So you
much as
don't
possible
have to.
in the right way. Now, does it make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so downshifting is 3 steps for downshifting. Upshifting is 1, 2, neutral gear. Downshifting is 3 steps. The first step, slow down. At 1000, take it out of gear. It has to be done within 2 seconds, approximately. Slow down to 1000. Once you are in neutral, if your vehicle is in neutral, what happens when you step on the gas?
It shoots RPMs up.
But what happens to your vehicle?
It's coasting basically.
But does it change the speed?
No.
No. It's just coasting to the last speed you came on.
Okay. That's another thing that people, once it's in neutral, they're afraid to hit on the gas to bring their PMs up.
Because the clutch hit, it ain't gonna accelerate.
Okay, so then do it.
Yeah.
Bring it up to 15, then put it in gear right at 15. Again, we're using the same 500 RPM we use to upshift. We're using the same 500 RPM up. Now the opposite way to put it in gear. You see what I mean? The same range we're using over here is the same range on the RPM gauge we're using over here. So again, as I said, you can shift at any RPM as long as you use this range in between. So if I take it out of gear, now I'm gonna answer your question. If I don't necessarily need to go to 1000 RPM.
Yeah.
I can shift at 12 RPM.
Yeah.
I can shift at 13 RPM. But how far I need to go up when I
Okay,
get the gas?
at least.
500 at least. Now, but there is people that gonna go 800 RPM. Again, you're gonna grind it again because you are out of the range. So if I take it out at 10, I get people they go all the way to 20.
Between 10 and 12 is perfect.
Then it's gonna be grinding
Yeah.
because you only need this.
Yeah. So in between the 10 and the 20, so it'd be between 10 and 12. Your perfect downshift gear would be like 12.
Hold on. You're not getting the point. I just said 500 RPM from anywhere you do it. Upshifting or downshifting. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Now, let's go to the speed. If this doesn't help, now this is to recover the gears on the freeway, doing 55. Suddenly, something comes up in front of my truck that I have to slam on the brakes. I have no time to react, but to slow down, hit the brakes. So I was in 55. Suddenly, next time I look at my gauge, I'm doing 35. Then I panic because I don't know what gear to go to. But if you know this, you're gonna recover your gears again. You know what gear to go to. So in other words, from 55, every 10 miles down, 1 gear down. Period. Every 10 miles down, 1 gear down. Okay? And actually, this should be in between. In between this. This gear should be over here in between this. That's what I say. So if you are, now if you, like Jorge, it happened to him, he lost the gear. Where did you lose the gear? Were you on the freeway or were you in the street?
In the street.
What speed were you doing? What was the speed limit?
It's 45.
The speed limit was 45. So why did you lose the gear? What gear were you trying to find?
6 to down 5. And
So if you're doing 45, it's not gonna go to 5th because it's too fast. It has to be below 35. In reality, it has to be actually 25 to go to 5th. It has to be at 25 miles an hour. So if you were doing 45, you're going too fast, so it's not gonna get in 50 gear because it's going too fast. So the average is that every time you slow down to 1,000 RPM, it's gonna slow down to this same speed. That's what I'm saying. Next time when you slow down and look at the gauge, RPM, look at your speed also so you know. Every time, if you're 55, slow down to 1,000. I bet, whatever you want, that's gonna be doing 45 miles an hour. From 45, slow down to 1,000 RPM, it's gonna go down to 35.
So you want to gradually brake and then clutch and then downshift.
Now, if I go instead of 1,000 RPM and I have no time to downshift because I got afraid or whatever, and then I panic, I couldn't downshift.
Reset.
And no. Then my RPM, instead of 10, it went down to 800 or 700 RPM. What's gonna happen here? You change the whole thing. So 1,000 RPM to go 1 gear down, right? But if it goes this low, skip that one, go to the next gear because it's going too slow already.
Then trying to find the gear.
Now, if it goes below its out of speed, I know that you have to use the clutch, then forget it, use reset. Then you need to wait another month for the test. This can happen in 2-3 seconds max. So you need to recover this gear in 2-3 seconds max. But you see what I'm saying? So that's the average. RPM, do it. Don't do it when you think, do it when the RPM is asking you to do it. Don't do it when you want. Do it when the RPM, the vehicle is asking you to do something. You're upshifting, do it when the vehicle is asking you to shift up. Downshift when the vehicle is asking you to downshift. You see what I mean? Plain and simple. The vehicle is not slowing down enough, use the brakes. Use the brakes to slow down.
So you're dropping your RPMs down
to get to where you need to be.
12.
Okay? So that's basic.